Okay. Yeah. I'd like to call the January meeting of the Board of Police Commission to order. As always, we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Start of the new year, and we have a pretty full agenda today. Is there a motion to accept the December minutes?
Motion to accept December minutes as presented.
Second?
Second.
Comment, discussion, edits? She's gotten everything right again. Holly, terrific. Thank you very much. Motion to accept the minutes as written.
Motion.
Okay.
So moved.
All in favor?
All those in favor of accepting the aye. Okay.
Now we got it down, Brad.
Okay. Public comments. We invite anyone to make public comments. If you would, please identify your name and your Madison address. And again, I know we have a number of people here. If you could limit your remarks to 3 minutes or so, it would be helpful. So, public comment, please.
I'm Bob Cipriano, 148 Horse Pond Road here in Madison. I can't say hello in less than more than 5 minutes. We're the traffic on 148 Horse Pond it's grown exponentially. It's dangerous. I fell. I had to be treated with my knee. Cars were coming. There's been accidents there. I can't walk on the street, and I'm supposed to for my cardiac rehab. But it's just so dangerous on that road. There's no when you come from Railroad Avenue past Old Duck Hole Road, there's not a sign that says the speed limit. So is it 30 miles an hour? Nobody knows. It's supposed to be 30. There is a sign when you get way past it. You go 0.8 of a mile before there's a sign going north from. Yeah, there's no sign there. The road, they have people walk and cycle on that road constantly, and there's been accidents, car accidents. It's just a horrific situation. Even I can't back out of my driveway because I'm afraid I'll get hit by a car going 40, 50 miles an hour. And it's just gone. We've lived on Horse Pond Road for 38 years. And we've seen the traffic, but it's not only the traffic. It's a cut through to town that makes it so crowded. And like I said, the volume of traffic has been unbelievable in these 38 years. It's just come to the point where I'm afraid to even walk. So I walk up and down my driveway. That's my exercise. Of course, it's a little cold for me to do that now, so I just do jumping jacks in the cellar. But on a serious note, it is very, very dangerous. There's a lot more. I wrote a letter to the chief and articulated my concerns and my neighbors' concerns as well. So I wish that something could be done about it. We looked at the 3 E's, which is a nice document, but there's no follow-through, I feel. That's the education, engagement, etc. So wouldn't it be wonderful if there were signs indicating speed limit, if there was police presence, which there hasn't been, and maybe not speed humps, but a speed, what do you call it? Speed cushion could be placed there to do anything to mitigate the speeding. And there's houses on both sides. It's not like on Railroad where there's only houses on one side of the street, and there's no sidewalks on Horse Pond, and it's just very dangerous. And we'd like to have something done about it before someone's killed, and it's just an accident waiting to happen. So I appreciate the opportunity to verbalize this. So thank you.
Well, look, thank you for your remarks. You've provided the information to the chief. It will be logged into a traffic analysis that we do, so it doesn't fall between the cracks. We certainly have seen in a number of areas increased in traffic volume. In some cases it relates to the summer, and I think in your case it sounds like it just relates to the population and the volume, and that's a convenient way to get into Madison. But anyway, thank you for your remarks, and we'll move on. Yes.
Hi, my name is Dennis Cohan, and I haven't been here as long as my two neighbors, Bob and Ray, but I've been on that road for 19 years, I guess now. I bought the house that they first owned. I lived behind them on 138 Horse Pond Road. And I can tell you in my 19 years living on that road, it's really gotten dramatically worse. Where I live is down near where there's a kind of a blind corner, if you will, on that part of Horse Pond Road, and it's really gotten to the point where if I go to pull out of my driveway, I'll look left there, look right, and that's kind of what I grew up doing, right? You look both ways, and then you kind of start. Now it's like if I look left, look right, and think I'm good, I'm going to start going. I look one more time to the left. They're half the way from the corner to my driveway. Those cars on there are hustling it. We're quite sure some of them are doing 45, 50 miles an hour. And it's really bad at their house for sure, because it's a straightaway, and they're really moving at that part of the road. But the closer you get to that corner, which is, Skytop is there. There's no sign indicating there's a crossroad coming. It's also a school bus stop. There's going to be a school bus stop almost right in front of my house for two young kids that moved in next door is that 142?
Yes.
Horse Pond? Yeah, there's a 3 and a 5-year-old. They're going to play in the front yard with cars doing, all day long they're doing 45, 50 miles an hour there. So, and everything Bob said was very true. Like if you get on that road from the railroad bridge, you go 0.85 miles, you go all the way to the Horse Pond before there's a speed limit sign. And that's the only one going northbound at all. There are two going southbound. You go by a daycare school. There's no signs for that. I know it's not a school, it's a daycare. But there's no signs warning you about that kind of a facility, But you go by a sign there, you go by a sign across from the kind of crazy Wildcat intersection where there's one, they're offset. And both have blind corners, by the way, too. Wildcat they're difficult roads when you look northbound on those. But there's another sign there, and then you go 3/4 of a mile until you hit the railroad bridge, and there's no more signs. So people just get on that road and drive whatever speed they want, because northbound, you don't see a sign for a long ways. A friend of mine I was with a couple days ago, and I'll wrap this up real quick, but he had the same concerns in a town up north of us, Tolland. A road that people were just taking advantage of and really going fast. And they did the speed bumps, the centerline speed bumps are called. And I also saw those on Route 1 today when you're down by Hammonasset where that solar speed sign is. That's where they kind of cut out along the center line, rumble strip, so that it makes noise when you're over the center line. And he said that the town of Tolland felt that was a very affordable way to start controlling people, and it paid some dividends for them up there. And what it does is, and we see this all the time, when we try and slow down to go into our driveway, we're already being tailgated because the people behind us want to do 45 or 50. And then when you try and slow down to turn into your driveway, they are all over you, and they'll just kind of gun the gas and go around you. When you have those centerline rumble strips there, it makes a lot of noise and the feedback. People are less inclined to just drive kind of crazy around that corner as well. If you stand there or walk there or ride your bike there like we do, people that come up that road around that corner, and I'll almost guarantee you, probably 8 out of 10 cars do this. They go over the yellow line because they're going rather quickly into the corner. They're over the yellow line, and when a car comes the other way, it's a real squeeze for the two cars. If you're there as a pedestrian or a biker, that's a very difficult situation right there. So those rumble strips help keep cars in their lane. So if you did some signs, if you did more radar stops on that road and kind of reprogram people from where they used to be, maybe centerline rumble strips, anything would help, because really something's going to happen on that road. It's really not good out there right now. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have an update on what we've had a discussion this morning.
Okay.
But we're selecting it. So to speak to what you folks, it is a cut through to go downtown or come north out of it. And it's also, you gotta remember, we have a lot of external factors we can't control. That's people that come off the highway, the housing developments in some of the areas. It's a diversionary route for I-95. When I-95 slows down, people go north, get to Green Hill, cut through Killingworth, come across, and then we'll head back to Guilford. But a lot of them know these little shortcuts, their own little circuitous routes. But you're correct. Since in the last year, from today going back a year, I ran the traffic count and enforcements. Coming from the Duck Hill Road was 100. There were 149 stops. Coming north from New Road, and after paving it got worse, and people that launch off the bridge from the stop signs, there were 70 enforcements there within the last year, so that's over 219. I agree with that you do need signs, and as I was out there today and looking at it, in that area, that corner you speak of, I have myself almost had encounters there, but I'm fortunate I could turn lights on, turn around and get them. It kind of bugged me when they didn't fix that culvert right away, where the road opened up, and there was a sign there that's gone. So my suggestion was, in those signs, the speed signs are about $6,800 installed. So I asked if I could find some sort of funding source for that today, and she said yes. Okay, so we'll get additional signs up there. We will get the speed sign at some point, probably because of what they have to do. It's a little bit too cold right now with the ground, so that will eventually be in there before the summer. The actual patrols, that's pretty robust. You may not see them, but they've been there, they've been operating. Well, my concern in town is that we have 251 more units going up, various housing, and at the end of New Road there's going to be. And it doesn't take people long to figure out the shortcut to cut from the highway to their property or wherever the heck they're going. Obviously, your road to Wildcat, go over the hill, end up on Route 79. We know that, we see them. So I just wanted to let you know that after today in the discussion, I know that you met with the first select woman. That's the plan. And I'll update you on that probably in about 60 days.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Please.
Okay, hi, Rafaela Cipriano, 148 Horse Pond Road. And to add to what you just said, I think that's even more reason to have speed slumps or tables, whatever they are, prior to the curve in the road going north and prior going south. There was an accident there maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, and that's where my husband had to jump off to the side of the road because he was fearful he was going to get hit. That's not the only portion of Horse Pond that I'm concerned with. I often take, I go north out of my driveway to where Peggy lives and take a right to go to Duck Hole Road to the highway. Coming back home, I take the same path, but when I'm at the corner of where the pond is and Wildcat, I have to pull up to the center double lines in order to see if there's an oncoming car. And like Dennis said earlier, you look left, right. By the time you look left again, there could be a car right on top of you. The problem with the north end is that there are a cluster of trees that are blocking the view. And I've called Russo's office 3 times asking that something be done. And they did take away the brush, but the brush is not the problem. It's huge trunks of trees that's blocking the view.
One of the challenges in town, and you're correct at that area also, that sight line it needs to be trimmed back around the pond.
Yes.
There's no doubt. And my favorite is when the landscape trucks park there right at the curb, at the corner. And now you can't see anything, and the cars are launch coming in from
That makes it worse.
Duckle. Also, in our conversation today, she was having Public Works go out there and see what they can do. And when there's trees and stuff that are obstructed on people's property, they get very, very temperamental when you say we'd like to trim the tree back. You know,
Isn't that town
and
property?
all that we're able to do is what would be in the town's right away, the town's property. So it's not, I have challenges in a lot of the shorter roads, particularly down by the beach area, with exactly that, the sight line, people trying to pull out. And it's, you know, it's a roll of the dice. So this is something it's not new. I can remedy what we talked about earlier. Speed bumps and speed humps are, they do not recommend speed bumps or
No
humps
bumps.
over 25 miles per hour. And in my experience, I find with the speed bumps, the senior population starts getting angry about their backs and their cars.
Well,
They
maybe
hit 'em.
that's
I understand that, but I'm just telling you what, I'm explaining my world. And I know the services, emergency services do not want the humps in the road if it's a road with speed is over 25 miles per hour. But it doesn't mean maybe at some point, let's see what the signage, let's see what the speed sign does. And the enforcement, we go around town hitting different areas, particularly the school routes and the bus routes. You know, you have an issue, we have issues in some other roads, which is very bad. And we're very, very aggressive with the radar. And, you know, I know one of the questions came up also about radar south on the connector. Well, I average motor vehicle accidents or pedestrian accidents because I have people trying to beat the light to get into Hammonasset doing 70 miles an hour. So that is the reason why we're there doing, unfortunately, it's Madison. So I wish the state would take it over, but that component, but they won't.
Well, I'm gonna be 80 and I don't buy green bananas anymore either, so I hope it's done relatively soon.
All right, so I just want to let you know, that's what's happening on that.
Can I do a very brief follow-up? Just what Ray Cipriano said about that intersection on Wildcat, looking north on Horse Pond, couldn't be more true. I mean, that really, those trees have gotten pretty big. When you look north, and you do have to go out into that road to try and clear the traffic at all. So that is a big concern, but there's no speed limit sign on Wildcat westbound at all. So if you come off the connector onto Wildcat, now you're traveling along and the horse pond will be on your right. There's no speed limit sign on that road at all. And last, just very, very briefly, would it be possible to consider at all a stop sign perhaps on Horse Pond somewhere in the Wildcat vicinity to just slow down the racetrack type thing on that straightaway, calm things down around the Wildcat intersection? You know, that would be a way I would think to control the speed on that road fairly rapidly. Thank you.
I think when we've dealt with, or tried to deal with, specific neighborhood or streets in terms of speeding. And there, as the chief outlined, there are a number of ways you could do it. Some of it does involve landscape issues, some of it involves investment in interactive speed signs. And certainly one of the things we've also seen, particularly over the last 2 years, where we've been able to staff up to our budgeted capacity, we've seen a 30%, a 40% increase in the traffic stops. And we are looking for one additional position going into the next fiscal year. And the impact of having, you know, another officer out there and having see that effect because the chief and the department, they track all this data over a number of years. So, and I know sometimes, you know, residents get frustrated, but when we say, wait a minute, you know, we've had 120 more traffic stops in that area, so you may not necessarily see the car, particularly when somebody blows past us, where we all say, where's the police car now? But it is an area, we recognize this is a key part of public safety. It's, you know, it's an area where we've got a lot of bikers, a lot of walkers, and it's an area that we're particularly alert to. So we appreciate you investing the time, you know, to share your perceptions with us. As I said earlier, we do track and log these, and we will be in a position, you know, over a period of time to say, okay, what have we done for each of these areas? So thank you for your comments.
I'd like to add something. As most of you know, these meetings, we have television, where people who are watching this at home, they're primarily the residents of Madison. So I'd like to speak to them for a moment. That three people tonight have spoken about one situation in one place, and I'm sure some of the folks who watch are some of the culprits involved in the comments that were made tonight. So please, out of deference for your neighbors and for the town, please observe the speed limits and be aware that we're going to be doing some more patrolling. And if you get stopped for a ticket and say why, I think the proper response is you've earned it.
Okay,
Right.
good. Yes.
Hi, my name is Tony Davis. I'm a resident of Gull Rock Road, 15 Gull Rock Road. I've been a resident for 9 years. Before that, we lived on Liberty Street in a small house for summers. It's actually been really helpful to hear you folks talk about your problems. So our problem is actually different. I hear it was helpful to hear. So my concern has to do with the fact that when we come out of Gull Rock, we either need to go to the right or to the left. It's the only way we can get out of Gull Rock, and we can't see. So we can't see if a car is coming, or a biker, or a walker, or a rollerblader, and especially if the cars are low slung. So it isn't actually a question of, I think Chief Drum and I were talking, he was talking about crosswalks. It's actually a question of visibility. So, of course, the best thing would be if those walls weren't there or if they were lower. But given the fact that they're not, something has to happen, because the only way, for example, if you want to go left, you have to look at the next house. Between the two houses, there's a driveway, and so you have a tiny little place that you can see if a car is coming. If the car has already gone beyond that, you're really sunk. And if it's coming after you look, then you're going to miss it. So the real problem is our getting out. And because we can't see either to the left, because there are walls on this corner and there are walls on this corner, and they're high enough so there are a significant number of cars, walkers, bikers, and it's increased terribly. Of course, in the summertime, it's much, much more than in the wintertime. There are about 20 houses on Gull Rock. I've given some of you already a letter that has signatories, so everybody on my street except one person was very in favor of doing something. We had talked about a mirror because we thought that would be least expensive. Of course, if there were, again, we're talking about speed bumps or speed cushions or something right at the place where we have to go out. Otherwise, we squeeze out onto Middle Beach and look to the left, and if we're going to the right, squeeze out, or stop signs. I mean, all those things. I know that there were some people who were unhappy about the mirrors that were put up for a brief time as ugly, but I think stop signs are ugly, other things are ugly, and people have written that people who are dead or injured are ugly too. So I think the town of Madison really has to think carefully about doing something. It's their responsibility to keep, or your responsibility to keep us safe. And we just are having terrible trouble turning to the right or turning to the left. Even if cars go slowly, we can't see them until we're out in Middle Beach. Thanks very much for listening.
Okay, just a brief little history. That's the road that was washed out, that area of Gull Rock, Irene and Sandy was replaced. There was a smaller stone wall that was replaced. It's closer to the road. That is where the road, we'll say the width narrows. Okay, now I had bicycles, pedestrians, people with carriages, summertime, it gets tight. The wall is so high, and there used to be some shrubs there, that if you're in a smaller car and you come up to the intersection, you look right, you can't see. And so, at one time there were crosswalks on all those side roads before they paved. And I'll get back to that. The history so far on this is that when I learned of this and I received this, I think I might have mentioned it in the meeting before last, I went out with the subcontract engineer, and they shot the intersection lasers. They said we could put a mirror on the other side, on the ocean side, and we did that. We ordered one and we put it up. It was taken down by the town crew inadvertently, thinking that it was put up there without authorization, so I asked them to put it back up. And that generated people coming in the office. So I'll tell you what, why don't we take it down, let's look at this another way. And that's what brings us here tonight. Discussion also in the same meeting with Peggy, for selectwoman, is that I'm gonna proceed with your blessing with putting those crosswalks back at all those intersections from East Wharf. We've already done the eastern side by Seaview. We did all that last year. We corrected that and put a speed sign in. I'd like to do the western part on Middle Beach Road. You're correct, signs, what I heard the feedback was, we don't look at that thing, it's ruining our vista, things like that. I understand that, when you pay premium, but safety is paramount. So I'd like to do is go back to the crosswalks and put the seasonal crosswalk signs in seasonal. This is something I did when I was down in Groton also. And it will temper the traffic, slow it down. I'll also mark that there are intersections ahead with signage so people know. So that will slow the traffic down even further and give notice and make it safer for folks to exit all those streets.
But how will that help us see to go to the left or to
Well,
the right?
that's going to be a conundrum. I looked at it again with my captain, and we're trying to figure out how we could somehow place maybe a mirror on them as you come to the left side.
How about, so one thing I know people are concerned about seeing the sound. I like to see the sound too. They've talked some about putting them lower. I mean, one thing is being able to see is what is critical. And crosswalks is hopeful that people will slow down. They haven't slowed down with the 15 mile an hour, but we can't see when we turn.
I
That's
think we
the
could
problem.
probably maybe temporarily figure out a way to stop of some. I have to go back with the engineer and look at how it's best to do this, because once we put signs up on a road, the town owns that for any liability. We take the liability of it. If we don't mark a curb, somebody trips, it's our liability. If we put a signage for a crossing and somebody we don't follow the requirements of this federal DOT on it, then we're liable. So that would have to have that leading up to that crosswalk. Could I make a stop there? I guess you could.
And one thing is if you had a stop here and here, then
both
everybody
sides.
just stops there, yeah.
But I'm gonna have, I can tell you, is I'm gonna have the other intersections. They're gonna be looking for their
Well, all I can
stops
tell
also.
you is people from Texas wrote about how excited they were about the mirrors. They thought it was helpful to them even, coming out of Texas.
Well, that area there probably is more appropriate for what we talked about earlier about speed humps or other devices
But that would be good
to
thing.
slow traffic there. Those intersections are more appropriate for it. It's a little tough to do it, like people brought them up, like some parts of Seaview or some other parts of Middle Beach West. I mean, because the speeds are, when they're 25 miles per hour, when the speed's not posted, it's 25 miles per hour. We learned that when we all got our license. That's gonna take a little more of an engineer's approach to that, so I still comply.
I think that actually would really be helpful, because it's supposed to be 15 miles an hour anyway.
And that section it is, yes.
Yeah, yeah, right there.
So, I just want to add that.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Certainly.
Rafaela Cipriano. I used to work for the town of Madison. I knew Stu McMillan very well. I lived up off of Green Hill Road, and I had to cross Horse Pond every day to go to work. There was a curve there, the north end. people used to fly down that road going 50, 60 miles an hour. And I called Stu like 3 times. I said, Stu, when are you going to put something up? There's going to be a fatality. We need a light. And he said, we'll see, we'll see. Well, there was a fatality. And
This is by the bridge in Kenilworth?
Pardon me?
By the bridge?
No, Horse Pond and Green Hill Road.
Okay.
A fatality or a very serious injury. Finally, a light was put in. What I am concerned about is, with Judy's issue, our issue, I don't want a fatality in our neighborhood.
I'm sorry?
I do not want a fatality in our neighborhood. I want to prevent anything like that happening.
I think I don't want to pick on a younger generation, but we also have statistics of age of drivers, things of that. I tell people this, in my generation, we learned to drive. Some generations learned to aim because they're doing 3 or 4 other things in that car. And when the technology changes as great as it is, the technology changes also. I don't want to give you an excuse of trying to, we have drivers, I mean, some of the inattentiveness to driving it's amazing. And a lot of the accidents, that's a major factor because they're just not paying attention. They're on devices. So, and we see that with a lot of different drivers. You know, there's some laws in the books that they want to change. They want to increase reckless driving, the fines. They want to make, with cell phones now, people on cell phones, they have a first, second, and third offense. They're trying to make that a mandatory reckless. These are the laws that are on the books that just came out of this week. So, I mean, I think they look at it, hit them in the pocketbook. That's maybe one way we'll educate people. Suspend license, educate them to go back for retraining, but it's difficult. It's very difficult. And driving habits have changed most drastically. You used to watch ahead of you when you drove on the highway. Now you got to watch all around you because there's a person coming up behind you doing about 100. So, I'm aware of that, ma'am. Do the best we can.
Thank you. Okay. Chief's report?
Before we start, sir, I don't want, we have our new MSW, Masters of Social Work here. If I may, could we introduce her? So,
Absolutely.
Yep.
all right, Jeremy, Captain New York.
Yep. So I'd like to introduce everyone, Maya Cadell. She just started on Monday, so she's, I'll have her give her a bio, but right now she's going to be starting, she's going to be working Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. She'll be graduating in May, and hopefully once she graduates in May with her master's degree, we'll expand it even more. We're very excited to start this opportunity to get the social work program going in collaboration with Madison Youth and Family. And yeah, so this is Maya Cadell. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Maya?
So I was born and raised in Clinton. I went to Morgan, all the Clinton public schools. And I got my Bachelor's of Human Development and Family Sciences at UConn, and then now my Master's in May at Southern. I attended the National Police Social Work Academy at in Meriden at the Connecticut Police Academy, summer of 2023. And my internship last year was with Milford Police Department. I was a social work intern there, so yeah, it's a fun field. I love it, and I'm excited to start. And I'm looking forward to helping the community. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maya, this is a position that has certainly been under discussion and consideration for a number of years. And it's absolutely been one that, the chief has supported, and, we see the impact involving any number of family residents here in Madison that sometimes looks like an idyllic community, and then you realize we really have some social issues. Given that fact, and I know you'll love assignments since you're still in school, but I would ask Holly to kind of tickle a reminder so that in May of 26, we can invite you back after a year here and ask you to give a data-driven report on your first year and your experience here and the implications of the interactions you've had with families, with residents. You know, we think, you know, the mental health part of a number of police encounters is sometimes just taken for granted, and we hear from the officers that we have regular visits to certain residents and certain individuals, and that is part of a mental health issue that the resources aren't there or they haven't been utilized. You are part of the investment I think the community is making in dealing with this, so that we don't have police officers who are going to get involved in any number of psychological issues in any event. But hopefully with some of your engagement and involvement, we can shift it out of a criminal activity into what's intended to be a public health and a mental health issue. So we'll look, we appreciate it. You know, you have our best wishes and good luck, and we can't wait till your report in May of 26. Anyway, thank you very much.
And a shorter version of what Ed said, welcome and thank you.
Okay.
And just an update, they started the construction, so the old juvenile probation room and fingerprint room is gonna be the new social worker office, where she'll have a private area to meet with clients, make phone calls, but she's also gonna be having office hours there. So someone may come in with a complaint, with a fraud complaint, and see Maya or the social worker outside the door. We're gonna have pamphlets for information and say, oh, I can speak with a social worker. I got an 85-year-old mother that needs assistance. What could you recommend? So they started the renovation of that room today, and we're looking to have that all nice and up and going shortly. So.
Good. Yes.
So I just was going to say, I was a social worker before I went to school again and to work at Yale. And one thing is that I drive for Meals on Wheels. I don't know how that works, but there are people. So it's Heather Novlin, who's at the Senior Center, and I'm sure she would be thrilled to know you're here, and maybe you've already made contact, but anyway.
Thank you. It's a good point.
I think you're right. You're going to be a great resource for many groups around town, so welcome.
Thank you.
Good. Chief?
Yep, and that puts us a step closer to complying also with the police accountability transparency task force. 43 points of reform, which required that we research and put. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
We worked with the MSW, not putting them in harm's way, as a follow-up to a lot of the cases we have that involve people in crisis and mental health. The pilot that we ran last year with an intern, in 2.5 short months, had 19 cases. So for simplicity, it's worth its weight in gold. Okay. Financials. Okay, there's 2 handouts there, but I'll tell you when. Okay. You folks have the monthly to-date financials that should have been emailed and delivered to you. Are there any questions where we are to-date at this point of the budget? We're 6 months in. Obviously, overtime for the back row with 3 slots down should be 4. That's the bulk of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Then if I may, we have 3 positions we have to fill. We have the 4th come the end of June. Officer Trey is going to be leaving us to go to the Southington Police Department. We want
Where? Southington?
Southington, which has a pension. He wanted to leave in January, but by statute, we're allowed to collect our training expenses, and money's laid out by state statute within 2 years of a placement of an officer. So I presented Southington with a bill of $42,000, and they opted to take him in June when he's eligible.
What's his name again?
Pardon?
What's the officer's name?
Jack Teray. He was a good kid. He grew up in Southington, and his family's there. So I don't fault him, but we invest a lot of money in training officers and working them through the FTO process, get them acclimated to the town. So for us, it's disappointing, but I understand. So I just wanted to illustrate that. We submitted our in Munis, the town budget. I met with the first select woman, and I also went over the additional budget requests, the ABRs. First on that and foremost is as the discussion was left off last year, is that the addition of one officer effective with July 1st, the 25-26 fiscal year. They accepted that. I'm sure there's going to be discussion of that between the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, and this board. Right, Al? So, in any event, that would end, the initial cost is $94,000. The all-in cost, uniforms, benefits, etc., is approximately $143,000. So that's going forward. That's been put in as an additional budget request. The secondary additional budget request is going to be an increase to the purchase services lines. Now, this is the lines where the regional agreements we have and contracts. Some contracts go up, our next gen, our CAD system, that's going to go up percentage-wise. The mutual aid, the sharing of services with the town of Clinton. I have animal control we share. That's the regional one. Westbrook has opted out of it. Their contribution was $3,600. We now absorb that with the town of Clinton. It's $1,800 more, but it's very hard to put and establish an animal control center and a place to put dogs and cats and others. So that's one of the increases. They also do share the range with us and the marine services when we need it by contract. Meaning is that the rescue boat also goes out with the fire department for the eastern part of the town of Madison, more towards St. Madison. So that is an increase. The regional traffic squad, which we share with 6 communities, that's Madison, Guilford, Branford, North Haven, East Haven, and North Branford. We also share with them the regional response team, and that regional traffic that floats around, it's also part of that. So the increase is total approximately a little under $14,000. So that is an additional budget request that's going to be added to the line. And without asking, they did not want me to put it as a special request. They wanted me they were just going to add it as it's contractual. It has to increase. The third one was the uniform expense. We haven't really increased the uniform expense, and quite frankly, outfitting an officer, you have to put them in training. If they're not a lateral, you have the training expense, the equipment they need for training, a uniform, which is separate from the police department uniform. Once they arrive and they graduate, we put them in the FTO, now they're in full uniform. You're looking at a shirt and a pair of pants on average are roughly a little over $200. So times 3 sets, winter, summer, times soon to be 33 officers, it's expensive. It adds up. Add to that the vest, although we have a joint program with the Department of Justice, which pays for half the cost of the vest. The vests don't last forever. There's an expiration date on it. There's wearing that daily. Our cost is still approximately $500 each officer. So we've always somewhat underfunded that, and we said we have to really put it what reflects today. So that is going to go up approximately $10,000. There was an additional budget request. Also, we put the crime cameras in, mostly in the southern part of town, as you recall. In that handout, and I know we updated that for the last year, and we put the newer information, and we have that some of the statistics as how is it affected now that it's about 8-10 months old. And we have seen significant drops in the auto theft and other crimes. And it's kind of funny because they figured it out with the cameras. Especially when they get off the highway, they see the pod of cameras. So we'd like to extend this now, as we said we would, to the Board of Selectmen up north, towards the circle, and further north. So that's the next phase of that, and that's approximately $37,000, and that's 6 additional cameras. Subsequently, we do have that fund they established last year for police and fire for kind of routine equipment replacement. She would like to take that $37,000 from she being the first selectwoman. And so it's not going to come on this year as an additional budget request, but I wanted to state that that's there. If you go to the tab of this handout, that outlines what I'm telling you right now. And the last part of this, it's under capital improvement, is the replacement of police vehicles. We enjoyed getting our vehicles between $38,000 and $42,000 base vehicle before the equipment goes in, which almost is as much as that. The cars have gone up significantly from all the 3 manufacturers. that being the Dodge product, the Chevy product, and Ford. Ford had some problems with construction, and they've had about over 1 million recalls on police vehicles. So because of an availability challenge, the replacement of the cars is now at the base replacement is $54,000. You add the upfit for equipment, even if we use the same radios over, we're able to somehow use some of the lights we had in older cars. It's still going to be a challenge, but that's going to put up to $20,000 additional to that. So they raised the car replacement fund based on our replacement schedule. 4 year goes by another 4, and then we run that for 3 years. Then we do the administrative cars and the other support units. So that's been increased, and that goes under CIP. And I've had that discussion with them and sat, and we went and received the quotes from the 3 manufacturers. In fact, they just purchased 2. The ambulance just received one of the vehicles, which is similar. It's a pursuit-rated vehicle, and the fire department, Madison Hose, just received one, and it was all of that money. So that's the increases that we're asking for. Any questions, comments, observations?
Yeah, so if I were to summarize these operating capital equipment, and some of them are, for example, the cameras. And, I think that initially was a kind of a capital item, but we've got, lease and data storage. So you've got, kind of the laundry list. The 6 cameras are $37,000. You got replacement autos. I'm trying to just reinforce the fact that these are not kind of nice to have items. These are essential items to have.
They're predicated on need, not wish.
Yeah. Well, it's if you prioritize the need, you're given the location of Madison, we're not going to have an officer walking a beat, effectively. So you got replacement cars, you've got the cameras, you've got certainly a professionalism standard of uniforms and equipment. You've got other things that are relatively minor, purchase services, which brings us back to the other, probably biggest and most significant event is the approval of the additional position July 1st. And, we've, you don't necessarily, need us to wave a flag with this. We've, we understand, the concern about adding head count, but as we expressed last year, and we thought we made a convincing case, maybe we didn't, this is an essential position for the training we need, for the coverage. We mentioned certainly, the very normal expected request. They have the resources to put in place sometimes to deal with a specific issue, whether it's break-ins or speeding or events. We need someone behind the wheel. So I hope as we get closer to the review and the approval process, Al, that if there is a sense that there is is this the right year for it? I know sometimes memories get short, but this was deferred from 24, 25, and if we need to go and provide a reminder and look for community support to provide a reminder of the discussions we had last year, I think we're ready to do it. I mean, hopefully, this is not seen as frivolous. The data that the chief provided last year has not changed in terms of the statistics and the ratio and the comparison with other communities. So, Chief, if you could, keep us alert to the review process as we get into the the full budget season with the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen. If we need to participate or testify or support the request, if there's any confusion over why we are requesting it, we will provide whatever evidence is necessary. But it is a key position. It's an absolutely critical position, and we've seen the effect, sometimes when we haven't been up to staff, and it's called overtime expense. So this is one that is, in my opinion, absolutely at the top of the list. We need, you can't come up with a law enforcement strategy if you've got no resources or not nearly enough resources to deploy. And we know, without the pun, we've dodged some bullets in terms of major events because the timing was right, whether it was a change of shift, the resources were available from an adjacent community, and that is not a way to manage, critical resources like a trained police officer. So anyway.
All right, just to add that with the cameras, I know that discussion was people want to make sure we're going to go north with the cameras. And it's very important. And we work, you might recall the conversations we had that the cameras also are interoperable with some of the other agencies. Most certainly the agencies have access to them, basically most of those in the community in state of Connecticut. But I mean, New Haven just did a release, and this is the Auto Theft Task Force. I ran that in my day in the state police. But they recovered 49 cars and made 48 arrests. One of the cars in Madison was in a shootout in Warner. So I mean, when people think it will not affect this town, it does. We get the residual from the cities. It's unfortunate, it's sad. We've talked enough about the crisis with juvenile justice and other things, but they're pretty proud of this. We did not have an actual officer participate this time around. We did the last 2 times previously. But this is important, so I think the promises we made to folks or the intentions we'd like to do up north, I'd like to continue with that. And I'm very happy that first selectman, when we sat and talked about it, that we came to an agreement, such as even speed signs. So.
Yeah, sure.
You very politely didn't put me on the spot, but I think the selectmen are very receptive. And I don't think any additional documentation is needed. I think you made a very strong case last year. And I think all that's needed at this point is a reminder.
Well, I'm gratified to hear that. I know there's budget seasons, and this season is a little different, and I also appreciate the pressure any elected official is on. And as we said, there aren't as many patriots as there seems to be on April the 15th, where we just have limited resources. I'm very aware of it, having lived in this community this number of years. So, good. I think the chief put together, I think a pretty bare bones request. If you're looking at it, what are the things we control? Well, we can't control the price of cars. You either get this is the current car or not. The cameras, as he said, it's essential that we say there's not 2 Madisons. There's Madison. From a taxpayer point of view, yeah, we know there are different tax rates. But if you live in Madison, whether it's the school system or law enforcement, you're entitled to the same level of public safety. So when we go through this, it's, as I said, it seems a pretty down-to-earth, compelling budget. So, Chief, I'm glad you outlined it in a succinct way, and let's see what happens going forward.
Well, I thank you for that, but the people I really are the people I work with, and most certainly the management team we have in place. Captain Harkins, Captain York, and most certainly Holly Burke, our assistant. I challenge that Rutgers MBA almost every week. This happens because of them, and I'm appreciative. I really need people to understand that.
Good.
So, okay.
Just one comment on that, Al. We've been fortunate to have you working as a liaison for several years now with the department, and when budget time comes around, as it has in the past, there have been requests, can you please work with us, things are kind of tight. I think over the course of the last year, the statistics that the chief has presented in relation to the population of the town expanding, some of the crime rates expanding, I think it's our turn now to turn around and say unequivocally, can you work with us? It's time for at least one, maybe two, maybe three, because if the public has reference to the FBI statistics, when you measure Madison against 10 comparable towns, unfortunately, from a staffing perspective, we're at the bottom of the list. We're not looking to be the number one at the highest, because that just is an impossibility. But help us get at least one, if not two or three, over the course of the next several budget sessions. And remember, we work with you, please work with us.
Good, thank you. Chief?
Okay, we'll go to the fourth quarter activity statistics. Captain Harkins, go.
Okay, so for October, November, December, we had 358 alarms, 123 911 hang-up calls, 134 burglar alarms, and 101 fire alarms. Suspicious vehicles, we had 39, and we had 22 suspicious persons calls. Criminal investigations, we had 182, and 43 in-custody arrests. Out of that number, we had 26 involuntary committals. Animal nuisance complaints, we had 88, with 3 bites. We had 1 missing adult over 16, and 4 juvenile complaints. We had 71 fingerprint requests, and we had 64 first responder calls, 201 assist person calls, and 47 assist other agencies. Motor vehicle accidents, we had 102. Out of that number, we had 16 with injuries, 40 that were just property damage, 23 that were on private property, and 18 that was car versus animal. And 5 of those accidents resulted in evading responsibility. Motor vehicle enforcement, we had 107 motor vehicle arrests, 3 DWI arrests, and 576 written warnings, and 42 verbal warnings. Subtotal calls, 747. Generated motor vehicle stops, 728. And total calls for service, 2,601.
So what happened with speed enforcement?
Yes, speed enforcement, seatbelt, and cell phone.
Oh, I don't have that on this, on 2020.
Yeah, it was on
Neither do we.
2023, but it's not on 2024.
We removed them because literally to go through it requires, they're not collected, you can't run a report, so somebody has to go through every single,
Stop?
yes. And so for the sake of time, for what added value it gave to you, we just made a decision and took it out.
So are they lumped under written and verbal warning? Like, are they a subset?
No, these are, no, so you get to see, so you can still compare written warning from this year to last year,
Okay.
verbal warning.
So wait a minute. So if someone were to say, so have you written more tickets this year than last year? Please tell me the answer is not, beats the hell out of me.
No, that would not be correct.
No, that's not what we're saying. We're just saying that those few items stopped tracking those particular items.
But what I'm asking is, are they, if somebody got a written warning because they were going too fast, would, in last year, would that have been counted once in speed enforcement and once in written warning?
The written warning, the speed, you can't interpret this, you can't glean the speed unless you physically look at each and every ticket.
Yeah.
It's not in the CAD system.
Yeah.
Where we do glean that information is from the police accountability, because what we send to the courts, the speeding tickets, the actual speeding tickets, or
Yeah.
speed enforcement, or an infraction, goes to the courts. That's documented through the state of Connecticut, now through IMRP. So we get a year in on that. But if you ask me, Jack, how many motor vehicle warnings do we write for speed too fast? This is how the printout comes.
Yeah,
And somebody would have to physically go through this and break them down. I don't have the capability, the CAD system we
Yeah.
have to do that.
okay.
Let's
I
try
can give you a year end, I can tell you.
Let's try another one. Okay.
Can I ask a question then? If
Sure,
you-
Amy, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
If you add up all these for 2024, it's 728. Is that the same as the 786? It's just how they're spread between the two? So on 2023, you have speed enforcement of 786. And if you add up those three, I guess the question is, what happened to those 786 from last year to this year?
You mean the
That's a-
differential in the stops
Exactly.
from last year? So you're saying is...
From last quarter, the fourth quarter of last year.
So Jack, the chief, we wrote 30-some odd less tickets this month as opposed to last year.
Okay.
Okay, so
That's
that's
what I'm
the
asking.
answer.
So that is, okay, that's what I'm
Yeah.
just checking.
I mean, what's not in there, if you add, we don't have like the regional teams, because that skews the statistics individually for each town with IMRP, with accountability. Because when they come in, you have 6 different departments, up to 12 officers that are running a whole bunch of tickets, but now we have them go to their respective departments with the calculation because it affects it. But technically, they wrote several hundred more tickets each month they're in here, in this town.
Okay, let me try it, because it's one of those, I got it, no, I don't got it. One of the things we want to provide, I think, to people in Madison, that from a public safety point of view, whether you're speeding or blowing through a stop sign or weaving on the road, that there is hopefully, potentially, and reliably going to be a police officer that's going to pull you over and have a discussion with you. Whether it's a written warning or issue you a ticket, that's up to the discretion of the officer, and I respect that. But to me, it would be helpful to say, how many times does the officer get out of his or her vehicle, roll down the window and say, here's what you were doing, can I see your license, registration, proof of insurance? How many times does that happen? And if the answer is...
You're not gleaning that from that, sir?
I'm not gleaning it, or am I gleaning it?
It still shows the same written warning, it still shows written warning. So if an officer pulls someone over and hands them either a written warning or verbal warning, we're capturing that.
Or a ticket.
Or arrest, or a motor vehicle arrest. It just doesn't say that it was for your seatbelt or you're on a cell phone.
No, okay.
It's not getting
It's
to
almost,
that
it's
level
almost
of
3
detail.
it's almost
You're
3
just-
tiers.
you're
Yes,
just like-
motor vehicle summons, which is basically your season of arrest. That goes to the court, that documents it.
So one of
Motor vehicle
One
stuff.
of the differences, I think what we're talking about here is you're
Yes.
not detailing the actual violation.
Right.
What you're doing is we're detailing what how we're enforcing it, whether it be written, a ticket, a written warning, or a verbal warning. The actual violation, I mean, the violation book is this
Okay.
thick. and
Yeah.
I don't know if you really need to know that, but.
We're just missing the detail.
If you put a total at the bottom of the motor vehicle enforcement and said,
It's 728, say.
yeah, okay,
Right.
about,
Well, it says it's
So-
728. If you add those all up, right? Everything in that category equals 728. Generated motor vehicle stops are 728 for all those things. And if you look on the next page, it's 1927, generated motor vehicle stops. Right? Is that how we're to read
that's
it?
what I'm looking at.
400 less stops than last year.
According to this, it's if that's how we're reading it, right?
Right.
Does that sound right?
It could be.
Well, I mean,
Well, I'm just saying, is it?
give me a hint, it's your
Well,
data.
I'm agreeing with you,
Okay.
there are less stops than last year, that's your bottom line answer. Now, you want some philosophical reason why?
I think it's
Maybe
just
people
different.
behave,
We're
I
just
don't know,
trying
maybe
to-
they weren't speeding,
Because
but-
it looks different, it just.
The information is entered, the information that's collected on the album pen is, we know why we stopped them, we know who the officer was, we know the gender or X, we know color or other. We know what the violation is, they do. We don't have that information individually unless it's in the CAD comments. So we'd have to go through all the CAD comments,
Yeah,
read each
understood.
paragraph that they wrote on the stop, and glean, is it, what's for a stop sign, 14301C, that's what it's gonna show. Following too close, 14240. Somebody has to break that down. That's not an easy task when you're handling so many calls for service.
Understood. Maybe for next time, because I feel like I have asked this question before, so I'm sorry for the repeat. Maybe we could just have an asterisk that says, like, you know,
Include speeding.
well, that just says, you know, no longer able to, you know, detail this or something like this, so I don't ask that question. And we go down this hole, that's all.
Okay. Again,
But I get it, thank you for the explanation.
I'm not ready to accept your explanation. Tell me why we had 40%, 40% of the traffic stops in '24 than we had in '23. I mean, I don't think the driving population changed, but, you know, this is nothing more than about as crude an assessment as possible by saying, last year in the quarter we had about 1,900, this year we had about 700. Boy, that's a heck of a drop. So, you know, and to your point, I'm very comfortable summarizing them, you know, in terms of arrest, warning, written warning, verbal warning. You know, I accept that. That's not, you know, spend 40 hours getting it down. But it just is puzzling to me that you'd have that significant a drop and everything else is the same. The number of officers is probably increased, but somehow we've had, you know, only 40% of the traffic stops in this quarter. You know, what happened? The weather? The deer stayed home? What happened?
What I truly believe, sir, and I'm going to repeat it again, is that it was skewing IMRP's records of each town, what they were issuing for tickets. Meaning is when 6 officers come in, or 12, from other towns, and write up to 200 tickets, 300 tickets, sometimes twice a month, that would skew the reporting for Yukon for state law, to comply with state law. So they asked to not do that anymore, and that happened this year.
Okay, so that may be it, it's the task force, but if the task force comes in about the same number of times each year?
Yeah, but we now participate with them.
Right.
So we have officers, our officers, they're writing tickets. They don't want that counted in our overall.
Okay. I'll accept that, but, you know, I mean, that is, you know, you're talking about, what is it? 1,200 tickets?
Well, you've got the notices, how many, what were the numbers
No, but
usually
the
that they
tickets are
write?
still happening, it's just the counting is different. So that's why I'm asking, like, maybe we could have an asterisk to account, you know, just to account for that, since we only see this once a quarter. That's all,
Yeah.
to remind our feeble brains that, you know, we forgot it from quarter to quarter, that that's what's happening. It was counting one way last year, it's counting a different way this year. Does that not make sense?
No, I'm good, I just, for me, I get a little bit, I work with great people, and I'm very protective of the professional job that they do. So even indicating that maybe perhaps there isn't some sort of calculation, it's in this misleading, or I take offense to that. That's not,
That's not what I
I'm
was
telling you that we glean our information, it comes in a printout, and that's where we get our numbers from.
Yeah,
Yes. So the breakdown of actual, did he stop him for this on a motor vehicle warning? Did he stop him for that? I can only get that by physically looking at the warning.
and I'm not asking for that, I'm beyond that, I'm past
Well, I mean,
that, I
to take it
understand.
to a more actuary accounting of, this is done by when they call it in, they log it in, and they clear it with the sergeant with a piece of paper.
Yep.
The numbers don't make sense.
I
to me.
understand what you're saying, I hear what
well,
you're saying, but I'm trying to
okay,
explain to you
so
what we do.
Okay, and I'm tell you that there may be an explanation for it, like the regional SWAT team. whatever it might be.
Regional traffic squad, yes.
Regional traffic squad. But if there are 1,200 less tickets written in a quarter, it's puzzling to someone to say, what is the explanation for that? And the answer may be, it's the regional SWAT team. How many tickets do you think, regional traffic team, right? I just got SWAT on my mind. So anyway, it's something that would say, look, if we were to look at these for all 4 quarters, maybe they'd all balance out. But 1,200 less tickets in a quarter is a lot.
Can I just add, so when you look at the statistics as a total, from this year to date, we did, I'll use written warnings. We did 4,235 written warnings for the calendar year 24. Last year, we did 2,413. So if you look at statistics wise, and I have the data breakdown, I don't know if you guys get a copy of this. If you look at statistics wise, overall throughout the whole year, we have almost doubled. I'm just looking at written warnings right then and there. And I'm a Madison resident. I live up north. My wife goes, I don't go as fast as I used to do North 79 on the circle. So maybe our motor vehicle stops, we've already done double the amount of written warnings. Maybe the behavior of motorists with all of our motor vehicle stops is showing into effect as to why there's not nearly as many motor vehicle stops this quarter as, and I'm a Madison resident. I hear it every time from my wife. Oh, there's always a cop sitting on 79 in Goat Law now. I get it from my mother-in-law who watches my kids when we're both working. Oh, I can't go as fast as I was in 79 because I know a cop's going to be there. So if you look at it as yearly, we are, motor vehicle arrests, I'll look at the next one. We did 604 in calendar year 24. Last year we did 378. Verbal warnings are roughly the same, 136 to 137. So if you just add those numbers, we have almost doubled our motor vehicle stops throughout the whole calendar year. So maybe the reduction in this quarter is drivers are starting to realize the cops are, and the behaviors are decreasing. So
that would be all the drivers except the ones on Horse Pond Road.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly.
Great, thank you for that. That's all.
That means that it's working. The verbal warnings are working, people are slowing down, except on Horse Pond Road.
Yes.
It's a helpful.
We're working on Horse Pond Road, we'll get there.
Thank you, that helps.
There's a helpful discussion, and we've brought some excitement to the statistics page. Chief, we're good.
Let's see what we have next, yeah. Training report, Jeremy.
Okay, so for the training report for December 2024, Madison Police Department participated in 208 hours of training. The first one is our body-worn dashboard cameras. That is an annual requirement that we have to review for our post-certification. Just goes over about the laws and everything in regards to body-worn cameras. Next one was first-line supervisor training. The newly promoted sergeants, Sergeant Phillips and O'Neill, went to a week-long first-line training for first-line supervision. Officer LaChance, who is the officer that's currently rotating in the detective bureau right now, she went to a basic crime scene processing class. Last month she went to interview and interrogation class. Now she's doing a basic crime scene. So our goal is to rotate officers in there every 6 months, and we're going to send them all to basic crime scene and interview and interrogation, just so it makes all of our officers more well-rounded. We will be hosting a basic crime scene class here in March, and we actually get, I want to say, 3 or 4 spots free of charge because we're hosting it. So we're looking to send, the next group of the officers that will be going through that training. And then we just have some of our basics, our collect NCIC recertification, and our SWAT training.
Okay, training, traffic, I think we've covered traffic.
Doug, the traffic report.
There's a typo, I put January 2025.
Oh, I didn't catch it.
I just looked at my...
27 reported motor vehicle accidents, 3 involving injuries. The leading cause of motor vehicle accidents involve failure to obey traffic control and following too closely. There were 0 driving under the influence accidents and 0 fatal motor vehicle accidents. There were 10 reported private property accidents, and lastly, there were 2 assists to the Connecticut State Police on Interstate 95.
Good, thank you. Chief Recruitment?
Jeremy will talk to the last 2 officers. We had 2 officers that will be graduating shortly, at least early spring, and we have 2 officers that will be entering the Milford Academy. Am I correct?
Yes, yep, 2 will be entering the Milford Academy next Friday, and we'll have an anticipated graduation date towards the end of July. So the 2 that are in the New Haven Academy will be graduating sometime in March, middle to end of March, and then we're having the 2 that will be starting next Friday.
How are the graduates who are graduating March doing?
They're battling 1 and 2 in the class.
Really?
One has like a 99.2 average, the other one has like a 99.0 average, so they're battling for seniority, so
Love that.
yeah, they're doing very well.
Great news.
That is terrific.
Yep.
I mean, that is, you know, I don't think, you know, maybe the public hasn't absorbed the number of officers that we've had graduated number 1 or number 2 in the class. And, you know, that is not our scoring of these individuals. That is an objective, you know, totally removed set of instructors who are saying, you know, you're student 14, and that, you know, I'm evaluating you as student 14. So it's a terrific compliment to you and Captain Harkins in terms of, you know, starting the selection process. I know other people, including the chief, participate, but it is, you know, having been involved in the recruitment field for quite a while, that is just absolutely terrific.
If I may have a quick question.
Yeah.
Chief, pardon my ignorance, if there is somebody who is interested in applying, how do they go about finding out more about benefits and applying? So my neighbor is a retired vet, young man. I happened to go over there he needed something notarized. So I notarized for him and I said, so what about coming to join us on the police? He was like, oh, actually, I spoke to my wife, and something I am interested in if there's a position open. And I was like, you know, funny, as the commission, I have no idea how to go about applying for the department.
Let's run
So
through the
I didn't know
process.
how do you go
So
about
I'll give so we're obviously on Police app, we've talked about the Police app, but with the Facebook, social media, the 2 that we're about to hire in the Milford Academy both saw our Facebook ad.
Really?
And they saw it, they applied it, they contacted me, because you'll see on the post it says, you know, contact myself. I had conversations with them. I told them then you have to take the South Central test, you gotta go to the physical fitness thing. And we were able to, basically it all started because of the social media, our Facebook post was that, so.
Could you also say, Jeremy, that anybody out there who has any interest in joining the department can drive over here, ring the bell, and somebody will tell them the process?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're also on Instagram. We're on the Post Council. We're on South Central, which most people have to take the exam first, and they get a chip card, and we get the names, or they'll come to us with an application completing that. So we're out there. You know, we're very fortunate. This will be the last 11 hires. We've done very well.
And just to add, so this last South Central test, so after we spoke with them, 3 people took the test. We got 2 out of the 3. So the fact that we got 2 out of 3 compared to everyone else that's in South Central is looking for officers as well.
Yeah,
Well, congrats.
that's great.
Great news.
Okay, great. Community calendar.
Okay, a meeting next week with Dawn Jackson from the Chamber. We'll go over, I think there's 5 events that way. We're still waiting to hear from the various parade groups, the Little League Parade, all things vets, some of the ceremonies on the green, some of the events on the green, and across the church on the green. So we'll probably better grasp on that in about a month or 2.
Okay.
People still coming out of their winter doldrums.
Okay. Regional shared services.
I think we covered that in
Yep.
the budget discussion.
Right, okay. Correspondence?
Correspondence, we basically covered that also, although these were January inquiries of 1 December and November. I also received 2 emails and a phone call from Larry Ciotti, praising the police department for our enforcement that we've program receives. I've seen the officers with the cruise lights on. Second to that is Dawn Jackson did reach out and tell me that she's going to be awarding Madison Police what they call an executive award for the support we give them for all the special events that we have in town from behind the scenes. That's it.
Good, okay. New business, we covered the budget information, liaison with state. Okay, there. Commissioner comments.
I would just like to thank the 4 members of the public for attending tonight, taking time out of your schedule to show your concerns about mirrors on Gull Rock and speeding and other incidents on Horse Pond, and that we will give each of these requests serious consideration and do the best we can to come up with a solution that works for you and for the department. But thank you for taking your time.
Well said. Yeah?
I also appreciate the public coming out. If you agree with supporting the chiefs and the department's budget request, please tell your select people, and the Board of Finance that you want that show up for the budget hearings if you so choose. I appreciate the chief putting together this document and the reasons why you're making this request. It's very helpful for us and the public, so thank you.
Thank you. Good.
I think everything I would say has already been said, but it is really nice to see members of the public come and share their concerns, and it allows us to see what are things that we aren't seeing, and so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I would agree. Good to have people here with us. It makes it more interesting for us. I love the budget presentation. I think it helps a lot as well, so thank you for that, and great news about our candidates. So, good meeting.
Okay, it was a good meeting. Thank you. And again, thanks members of the public. Sometimes the requests go in through the chief, and he normally lets us know, but it's good to hear directly. We will be adjourning into executive session. The motion to make that change.
Motion to adjourn into executive session now.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, we'll separate, turn into executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.